What's going on, everyone? Coach Aaron here, back again with another video to help you dominate on the platform. Alrighty, what's going on, everyone? Today we're going to go over the 14-week advanced cycle that I have on the website. The same as the previous programs. Nothing has really changed. I just went and switched it to our new template on Google Sheets instead of the old Microsoft Excel files. So what you're going to do is, as always, is make a new copy. You make a new copy, that way you can then go and adjust it for you and put in your maxes on the athlete profile page. All right, we're going to go through each of the tabs first, and then we'll go more into detail into the training. So the first one is start here. It just has information about squats and science and about myself, and the link to this video explaining everything, and then a little description of what each tab is. Going into athlete profile, this is where you put in information about yourself. You put in your 1 rep maxes. We'll set these to 100 for now, and then you can go and make the adjustments for you. And then here is the overall 14 weeks for the volume and some acute chronic work ratio. So we'll come back to this. We're going to go through all the tabs first. Here we have the training, first 4 weeks, second 4 weeks, third 4 weeks, and the final 2 weeks. Here is the schedule. This kind of just shows you like an overview of how the program goes, and then you can go and set your own dates in here. This is the data tab that's just pulling everything into that athlete profile. You don't have to mess with this, but just this is where it's pulling everything in. I have the number of lifts as well as the total tonnage, just to look at it both ways. And then here's the acute chronic work ratio if you just want to look at that. Then I have a resources tab with some different information in both article and video form from me and other people that you can go look at. I try to break it down into different sections. I have some of our podcasts, but whatever you're interested in, you can go look at that. Since you are making a copy, it's just going to make a copy of what the most up-to-date version is I have there, but you can always go back to this link, to this Google Sheet, and see if there's anything added, or you can always go to the other resources I mentioned in a previous video. I'll put the little card for that above, but then you can see my website and other websites out there that are constantly updating what good resources are out there that you can use. And then you don't have to worry about this tab. This tab is just for a kilogram plate loader, but this program isn't pounds, so we're not using that, and you can even delete it or hide it if you want. You can hide the other sheets if you want to, so you can hide 2 through 4 when you're only doing the first 4 weeks, and then open each one up as you're doing them. All right, so let's look at the overview here from the athlete profile page. So this kind of shows you the entire 14 weeks. The blue is the squat, the red is the bench press, and the yellow is the deadlift. So you see this general trend of increasing to about week 6 where we hit our peak, and then we're kind of maintaining here through weeks 7 through 10, and then we start going down 11 through 14 into if you're going to compete or do whatever test day that you're doing. And you'll see that there's some variations going on. So for example, if we look at the blue and we look at the squat, you see that we're using this undulation. So you're going up from week 1 to week 2, then down for week 3, up to week 4, down to week 5, and then up to week 6 where you're hitting your peak. Then you'll see a similar thing here. From week 7 to 8, you're going up, down to 9, up to 10, down to 11, up to 12, down to 13, and then down to 14, since that's the kind of the taper week. You will not necessarily the same thing for each lift, because the different lifts are going to react differently to the training, and there's some little differences within each of the lifts, and your lower body is going to react differently than the upper body. So if you look at the red bench press, you'll see we're increasing from week 1 to week 2, but 2 to 3 we're staying the same, because you should be able to recover enough to do the same amount of reps. And then we go up for week 4. Then since week 4 is pretty high, we take a little of a drop off for week 5 so that we can hit that peak in week 6. Again, here, week 7 to week 8, you see it kind of stays the same, because if you're able to hit these 80 and 87 reps in 1 week, you should be able to handle these 60 ranges without having to have a drop off. And again, you'll see that here, weeks 11, 12, and 13, the volume kind of stays the same because you should be able to recover from it. So let's go into the actual training and take a little bit more in depth at the weeks. Same setup as the other programs where you have the days, exercises, sets, reps, load, percentages. And in this case, since it is an advanced one, we have a load and an RPE. So you can pick which one or use one to guide you in the other. And if you want to get rid of these cells, you can always hide these as well. If you just want to look at the program, you can always hide these so you can kind of see the entire week in one shot, depending on if you're using your computer or your phone. So here's our week one. So you're gonna do 4 training days. What I've noticed with more intermediate and advanced lifters is that 4 training days is a good sweet spot. They can get enough training in, both frequency and volume, and it also leaves them off days to recover, or if they need to do cardio and also like work and family stuff. So not a lot of people can handle 6 days a week of training plus whatever cardio they may be doing plus family, work, all that kind of stuff. It just becomes too much. So in these 4 days, you'll see we're doing a bench exercise for every single one. So here you have feet up touch and go bench, here you have 2 count pause bench, here we have the competition bench, and we have floor press. So we're doing 4 times frequency on the bench press. But on the lower body, the 4 days are split into squat and deadlift. So you'll see day 1, you have the squat and the front squat, and day 3, you have the squat. And then day 2, you have the 2 count pause deadlift, and day 4, you have the deadlift and the remaining deadlift. So the lower body is split into squat and deadlift, and then the bench press, you're getting all 4 days. All right, so like I said, you have the sets and reps here, then you have a suggested percentage and a suggested RPE for the first set. Since you should be more advanced if you're doing this, you should be more comfortable with RPE. So I would say go with the RPE and use this bar load as a guide of where you should be on an average day or where you should be for your average strength for that exercise. But it might not be an average day for you. You might be feeling good and you can adjust up, or you might be feeling bad and you can adjust down. Or you might be bad in an exercise, so maybe you're really bad at front squats and that percentage doesn't account for an RPE 6, so you need to go down. Or you might be really good at an exercise, you might be really good at 2 count pause deadlifts, and then you can bump it up a little bit. So as an advanced lifter, it's important to make those adjustments to make your training more efficient. So that's why I recommend using the RPE, and then the load is just a guide of kind of where I think an average person would be at on an average day for those exercises. And like I said, these are first set RPEs. So even though the RPEs seem low, that's going to be for the first set. So here on, let's say on day 3, we have the competition squat 3 sets of 3 at RPE 7 for the first set. So your RPE might go a little bit higher on set 2 and a little bit higher on set 3. And then depending on how fatigued you are, this 1 set of 4 at RPE 7, you might be able to stay at that same weight, or you may have to go down. It all just depends on your recovery rate. So then a program adjusts based on you, how you are doing that day based on these RPEs. So going into the following weeks, you'll see it's from top down. So we have week 2 here, week 3, and then week 4. I tend to put 4 weeks into each training block. So each tab is going to have at max 4 weeks. So when the exercises do change, so be aware of that. It's not just the RP that's changing. So like here you see week 1, we're doing all 7s. And then by week 4, we're doing RP 7.5 and 8, so we can be increasing that intensity a little bit as we're going through and building up the volume. So here we'll go to tab number 2. Again, you can hide this if you want, so you can see everything on one page. So now you'll see, for example, on day 1, we're just doing a touch and go bench instead of the feet up touch and go bench. So we're slowly moving towards this higher specificity, and we're slowly moving towards exercises where we can either do more weight or we can do less reps. So the previous exercises, like a feet up bench, you're going to probably do less weight on that for a set of 5 than on this touch and go bench set of 5. So that way you're going to be able to get more tonnage in, a little bit higher intensities in, and a little bit more competition specificity. Same thing on day 2, the 2 count pause deadlift is now switched to a competition deadlift to be a little bit more specific. And that's the theme of the entire 14 weeks, because we're working towards a competition or test day. So we want to be increasing those things. So like for example here, you'll see on day 2, pin press mid-level. So that's gonna let you work with heavier loads and do a little bit of an overload, versus the 2 count pause bench is gonna make you use less weight because you're making it more difficult. Day 4 here, you see eventually I switch out the Romanian deadlift for block pulls, and I put a range in there between 2 to 4 inches based on what you have access to, based on your normal range of motion and which variation you're doing. So if you're a sumo puller, you're most likely gonna have a smaller range of motion, and you most likely need a smaller block. So you'll probably get away with a 2-inch block and still be able to do an overload. If you're a conventional puller, a 2-inch block might actually make it more difficult for you, especially if that is inside your weak range of motion. So you may want to do a 4-inch block pull to reduce the range of motion a little bit more, to get closer and closer to that overload. But again, this is where the RPE comes into place, because you might not be able to do the 87.5% if you're a conventional puller and maybe using a 2 or 3-inch block pull. So you may have to defer to the RPE and pick the weight accordingly. So it may not be as much of an overload for you. And for someone who's a sumo puller, maybe using a higher block and really good at sumo, then maybe they're gonna be able to do much bigger overload. And maybe this 87.5 is low, maybe they can do 100% for doubles. So again, important to go on based on those RPEs. Again, we're looking at tab number 3 now. You can hide this if you want, so you can see everything on one page. And again, exercises just start trending more and more towards competition specificity. So now we have competition bench on day 1, day 3, and day 4. So we're practicing the competition bench 3 times a week. And then we have the pin press on day 2 for the overload. For squat, we're doing now a competition squat on day 1 and day 3. So both days we're getting the competition work in, and then we have just that pause squat to become a little bit more familiar and comfortable with that bottom position, especially because some people have issues with depth or losing tightness in that bottom. And then for deadlift, day 2, competition deadlift, and day 4, competition deadlift. So again, getting that competition work in, and then that block pull for the overload. All right, so then there's your next 4 weeks. And then we go into the final tab, training 4. And since it's a 14-week block, this one will just be 2 weeks. So you have week 1 and week 2, and then week 3 and 4 are blank. So week 1 is where, of this training block number 4, is where the volume starts coming down drastically. So you'll see now we're doing 4s for our volume day at the beginning of the week, and I've tossed out some of the accessory exercises. For day 2, you see we're just doing singles on pin press, really trying to get that overload, just doing doubles on deadlift at a low RPE, just to focus on the technique and letting your body recover a little bit, because day 3 and 4 are going to be much more important here. So we want to make sure we're well recovered for it. And then you can see for day 3, we have singles there for the competition lifts, somewhere around a 2nd attempt or between a 2nd and 3rd attempt. So I have the percentages in RPE 9.5 there for you, and then some back off doubles to maintain that higher intensity. And again, decreasing the accessory work, so you just have 2 sets of triceps here. And then again here, day 4, it's some light bench work just to maintain that specificity and that working on that technique, but not fatiguing you, because you have to get ready for the competition or test day. And then here, deadlift, we're just doing RPE 90%, because most people have trouble recovering from deadlift the most, followed by squat, and then bench is the easiest to recover from. So we're gonna pull back the intensity a little bit on deadlift, especially since it's after squats, so your lower body may already be fatigued, to ensure that you can get the single in, get the back off triples in, and still be able to recover for the competition day. And then here is the 2nd week, which is basically that final bit of taper into your competition day. So you see, it's all competition specific stuff, no accessory work, no variations. Day 1, you see we have a higher intensity single and then some lighter volume work. Day 2 is just some lighter singles. Looks like there's a issue here, but I think I can fix it. So if there are any issues, oh, there you go, that fixed it. If there's any issues, you let me know and I can go and always adjust it. That was just missing this little formula here to calculate the bar load. But again, just some light work in to go through the whole warm-up process and work with some weights up to a moderate intensity, here RPE 6, but not fatigue you too much. And then the final day is just all singles, super light, just going through your warm-up process, going through your setup and everything like that, getting some singles in to loosen up a little bit before competition day. I didn't put which day specifically you should do these based on when your competition is. That's kind of for you to find out depending on how well you recover based on previous meets. You know, if you have to take 2 days off or 1 day off, 3 days off, whatever. Oftentimes what I do for my lifters is if this competition day is a Saturday, I take Friday and Thursday completely off. So this would be a Wednesday, and then they can backtrack from that. They could do this Monday and Tuesday or Sunday and Monday. Since this is all super light stuff, lower RPEs, lots of RPE 6 work, lower volume in general, you could do this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and be fine. You'll recover, and then you get that Thursday and Friday completely off, and then you do that competition on Saturday. If you feel you can recover faster and like 72 hours is too long for you, then you could move this one up a day. So you only get Friday fully off, you do this one Thursday, and then you can keep these on Monday and Tuesday. So it's up to you, however you want to plan based on what you know is best for you. But that's pretty much the program. Again, this is the overall volume tracking of it. So kind of gives you a full cycle of where you're increasing the volume, and then you're going to be kind of trying to maintain that volume for a little bit, and then you slowly start coming down and working those higher intensities in to get you ready for that competition. So this cycle is longer than the previous ones because the more advanced you get, the more time you need to train and build to then be able to hit PR. So you're not going to be able to do a 6-week block and be able to hit a PR or a significant PR if depending on where you are in that range of being intermediate or advanced. So we'll take a full 14 weeks to try and maximize everything for that competition day to try and hit whatever 2.5 kilo PR, 5 kilo PR. Once you're done with this and you did your competition, you got your new maxes, you can always come here on the max and switch it to your new max, and then it'll update all these numbers and you can start over again. So these updated numbers, like I said, will give you a new guide, but then you can always use the RPE again. And so you can always run this 14-week block again. All right, so if you have any questions about the program, you can leave it in the comment section below. Like I said, if there's any issues with the program, with any of the formulas and stuff, you can always contact me in the comments below or through my email. Let me know what the issue is and I can look into it and fix it. But that's basically the end of the programs that I've previously made and put on my website. So that's the end of the series for now. But if you would like to see some other different type of program that I don't have there, whether it's like a bench only or maybe something with different amount of frequency or number of days, any ideas you have that you think would be beneficial for a large group of people, you can let me know. Comment below with some details about it, and I'll see if I can put that together, put that on the website, and make a new video adding to the series of another free program that y'all can run. All right, but that's it. See ya.